In news out of the USVI criminal courts, we learned that two former lovers have been slapped with domestic violence charges, while another man also faces domestic violence charges in an unrelated incident involving his ex-girlfriend. We begin in St. Croix, where Michelle Andre and Ayodele Romain both appeared in court on Friday, October 14th, to answer to domestic violence charges. Both were detained following an altercation at Romain's residence on October 11th, when she called the police to report that Andre had arrived at her house, broken down her door, and assaulted her. Romain said that she and Andre had ended a complicated relationship some weeks earlier, and on the day in question, her former partner called to talk, but was doing so in a disrespectful manner. Romain told officers that she first admonished Andre and hung up, after which Andre called back to hurl some choice words over the phone before hanging up herself. Romain said that she was in the kitchen of her home when Andre appeared at the window, still cursing. When Romain did not react, she said that her former lover then removed the window, stretched her body through the opening, and punched Romain in the face. Romain told police that she managed to shove Andre back outside and close the window, upon which Andre continued to make a scene outside. Eventually, the irate woman's attention reportedly turned to Romain's green Honda Civic, and Andre began taking her frustration out on the inanimate object, breaking the rear glass with a rock and damaging the front windshield with a baton. Not satisfied with that bit of destruction, Andre then reportedly charged the apartment's back door, broke it down, and began punching Romain in the head. A third party inside the apartment intervened and separated the fighting women. At some point after that, Romain reportedly walked to Andre's house to speak with her mother, but the woman was not at home. Andre was at home, however, and approached Romain armed with a baton, reportedly threatening to strike her with it. At that point, Romain said she reached for a knife and punctured the tire of a vehicle that was parked in front of Andre's home. That prompted Andre to charge Romain with the baton, striking her in the head and on the back, and triggering another fight between the former partners. Romain said she stabbed her ex at least twice in the back during the altercation, but argued that it was in self-defense. When police showed up, they noted that Romain's vehicle did indeed have a broken rear glass and windshield. They say they saw the back door of her residence on the floor with damage to the frame as well. Investigators then visited Andre at the 1F Louis Hospital and noted the two lacerations on her back, which she said were the result of Romain stabbing her. The two women were then arrested. Michelle Andre on several domestic violence charges, including burglary in the first degree and both simple and aggravated assault and battery. She was also charged with carrying a dangerous weapon, damaging or tampering with a vehicle, and destruction of property. Meanwhile, Ayodele Romain was charged with third-degree assault as an act of domestic violence, simple assault and battery, carrying a dangerous weapon, and damaging or tampering with a vehicle. In court on Friday, a judge ruled that both women would need to post an unsecured bond for each of their $15,000 bail requirements. Both must present a suitable third-party custodian and will both have to abide by a curfew, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for Andre and 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. for Romain. The pair will also have to report weekly to the probation office, are restricted to St. Croix unless they have written travel authorization from the court, and must both surrender their passports. They are each bound to remain at least 500 feet away from the other and must have no contact with any witnesses in the matter. Andre is also specifically banned from entering Romain's residence. Another domestic dispute came before the courts on St. Croix following the arrest of Brian James Wisbauer on October 17th. His ex-girlfriend called police on that day to report that she'd received a text message from Wisbauer the day before, telling her that there would be a lot of blood when she got home. She told him that she would be home soon, and when she arrived, she did indeed find a lot of blood on the door, on the floor, and coming from Wisbauer's wrists, which had been sliced. He was asleep on the couch, and when she roused him to find out what had happened, he remained silent, only showing her the cuts on his forearms. The gory scene triggered a panic attack, the woman said, and when she recovered somewhat, she phoned a friend for assistance. That friend came to the house, helped Wisbauer's now ex outside, and helped her regulate her breathing and regain control. The friend then attempted to speak with Wisbauer, who claimed that a stray cat his girlfriend had fed earlier that day had come back to the house and attacked him. The friend was able to tell Wisbauer to clean himself up while he and the woman cleaned the blood from the couch and from the living room floor. After the friend left, Wisbauer and his then girlfriend settled down to bed, but at some point she said he began to describe her in offensive terms, and she responded by hitting him on the arm. He then rose from the bed, continuing to berate her, but when she followed him up off the bed, she said he lunged, taking her down to the floor, and then straddled her, pinning her down with his body weight. She recounted him holding her by her neck with one hand, strangling her, while pulling down on her face with the other hand. It became hard for her to breathe, and she fought back by slapping him, she says. However, he then placed his knees on her arms to further restrict her movements. With both of his hands now pulling at her face, the woman said she took the opportunity to bite Wisbauer, causing him to get up off of her. As the woman scrambled for her phone to call her friend again, she says Wisbauer first slapped the device out of her hand and then seized the phone and ran with it down the street. The woman gave chase until she says she realized he was on the phone with the police, telling them that she was after him. The woman said she then trailed him back to the house, at some point calling the 911 dispatcher and subsequently her friend, but while waiting for help to arrive, she had another panic attack, which prompted teasing from Wisbauer. The friend eventually returned to the residence and escorted the woman outside, walking with her until police arrived. She told responding officers that this was the first time she'd been physically attacked by Wisbauer, and also said that she had been in fear for her life during the reported assault. When police made contact with Wisbauer, he told them that she'd been drinking all day and noted that her blood alcohol levels had not been tested by the authorities. He repeated the narrative that his injuries had come from being attacked by the stray cat the woman had fed, and told police that it was his ex-girlfriend who had come home, gotten aggressive, and attacked him first. He said she struck him several times in the head and face with her hands, and told police that he'd pinned her to the floor only long enough to prevent her from striking him again and for him to escape the house. He denied putting his hands around his girlfriend's neck and denied strangling her, saying that any scratches she may have came from how wildly she'd been swinging at him. Police took note of the scratches on the woman's neck, as well as a small scratch under her left eye. She also had minor bruising on the inside of her arms. Wisbauer had long scratches on his forearm and smaller abrasions on his fingers and on his knuckles. He was arrested and charged with second-degree assault as an act of domestic violence. In court on Wednesday, October 19th, the judge ruled that Wisbauer would be released after posting $101 in cash, with the remainder of his $1,000 bail to be posted as an unsecured bond, upon which he could be released to a third-party custodian. Wisbauer is barred from entering the premises where the incident took place and is to have no contact, directly or indirectly, with his ex-girlfriend or any witnesses. He must also maintain a minimum distance of 1,000 feet from the alleged victim.